being product of this trespassing, and what to do with that.
Well, of course, then they would be a living human being, and it'd be sort of like a situation with a child that's a product of rape, and the mother chooses to go ahead and have the child. Then it's a child, then it's its own person, and that kind of thing.
I think the real problem with this technology is we could raise tremendous amount of legal questions, obviously, but the ultimate question is, do we as a society want to bypass normal mating with all the unpredictability and spontaneity of normal mating and introduce manufactured process? Because with cloning, you always know ahead of time what you're going to get. You're going to get an assembly line production of the original. Now, if our society decides as individuals voluntarily, or society condones a new asexual reproduction as part of our way of life, so be it. I don't think very many people would be in favor of it.
Well, okay.
Thank you for your call.
And of course, time goes long. But personally, I believe as long as it is voluntary and the individual has a choice in the situation, I don't see any threat. The threat comes when government takes an active role and determines for us, or somebody with power makes the decision for us as to who's to be cloned and who is not to be cloned. The issue, I think, comes down to voluntarism. And as long as it's a voluntary process, then I see no threat at all.
Okay, thank you very much for your call. I think one thing we might mention here, Jeremy, it would be possible to set up an assembly type or an assembly line type production of human beings if it only takes one cell. Even if there were a 9-month gestation period involved, you could take any number of cells and have any number of human or clones in the works at one time, right?
Absolutely. You could have hundreds of cells from your body, or thousands or millions being cloned at the same time.
And then the master race kind of scare.
And you introduce the possibility of the kind of scenarios that the book Boys from Brazil talks about development of master races and development of certain types in the population. And in terms of what that last gentleman, the caller, mentioned, obviously there's the question of individual rights, but there's also the question of what the social norms of a society are all about, and what's considered valid for a society in terms of defining what life's about. And we do have laws, and those laws are designed to protect the interest of what humanity's about. You know, George Wald, the Nobel laureate at Harvard, introduced a proposition that he thinks should go in front of the United Nations. And that proposition would be an international law against cloning and against genetic engineering as a violation of the human germplasm. And that violation is just as much a violation, he would say, as the violation of our other human rights, because you're violating the biological rights of the human species.
Jeremy, do you think that yourself, personally, that all research into genetic engineering should be abandoned? There should be some law prohibiting it?
Yes, I do. And not because there aren't benefits. There are benefits potential from this research. I think there is a clear parallel, however, with genetic engineering and nuclear technology. Years ago, we believed that nuclear technology could be used for good or for bad. Remember the concept of atoms for peace. And now many, many people in the scientific community and in the intellectual and public interest community are starting to believe that nuclear technology, not only for military purposes, but nuclear technology for energy, is creating so much problems in terms of low-level radiation and its effect on in causing cancer and other various sundry side effects, that as a technology it is not worthwhile, and that other technologies would be more worthwhile. I think with genetics we have the same problem. I could pose several examples of benefits in genetics which could be more appropriate benefits in other areas. Let's take cancer, for example. Mm-hmm. The scientists say they might find a way to change the genotype or the genetic makeup of a human being so that that human being would be immune to cancer. Now the problem here is that every major study of the last few years says that 80 to 90% of all cancer is caused by environment. Everything from toxic substances to food additives to industrial pollution. I'm sure on your show you've talked about this many times. Now, if that's the case, why don't we spend our research and scientific know-how and our money in going to the source of the cancer, the environment, and cleaning that up? I think it's the height of perversity to spend our scientific money in trying to genetically alter the human being to fit the environment rather than cleaning up the environment to accommodate the human being.
Okay, one final question, Jeremy. I know you have to go.
Yes.
What about objections that say, as things are now, the genetic pool, if you will, is becoming, the mean is becoming lower and lower. The superior genes are not reproducing themselves while the inferior ones, if there are such a thing, are.
Well, what scientists are saying is that because of environmental hazards, everything from atomic radiation, nuclear radiation, to chemicals and pesticides, all of these are creating chromosomal problems, a breakdown in our chromosomes, which are being passed on to our children, and that each generation is creating more defective or crippled or handicapped people as a result of the environment that we live in. And therefore, genetic research is a way to deal with that. I think that's perverse. I think that what we have to do, again, is go to the source of the problem, the low-level radiation, the environment, the pollution, and begin cleaning that up so that we can restore balance. You know, in nature, there is one absolute, that in nature and the ecosystem, everything that exists in a relationship of balance with everything else. And once you begin to destroy that balance, especially in the gene pool, by artificially changing it, you throw the entire biological system out of whack. And when that happens, the only way to restore it is to go back to the concept of natural equilibrium. And anything short of that is going to bring us down the line of technological holocaust in terms of the biology of life.
Yeah. Jeremy, thank you very much, and good luck with your research. And are there going to be further congressional hearings into this, you think?
Well, I suggested that there be hearings in the fall, bringing in a wider community to testify, including theologians and other people on this issue, and it's still questionable as to whether that happened. I believe we've only seen the tip of the iceberg. There's going to be many hearings on this because genetic engineering will be the premier scientific and cultural question of the age of the next 25 or 30 years. So we're just at the beginning of the process.
And you're predicting that we will see a cloned human being? It will be proved conclusively
Absolutely.
In the next, 10 years or less than that?
Within any time between now and the next several years. Yeah. Absolutely.
Thanks again.
Yes. Bye now.
Okay, Jerry. Goodbye. 742-5700 in Dallas, the number 263-4905 in Fort Worth in the Mid-Cities. We just had Jeremy Rifkin with us for a limited time, so I wanted to take as much advantage of that as I could. Right now, though, we're going to open the lines to you people who have comments on cloning right after a commercial break.
Whenever the National Weather Service issues a tornado watch, tornado warning, or severe thunderstorm warning, the staff of First News 57 goes on alert to bring you weather information that's complete, accurate, and up to the minute. Whenever you hear, you'll know that severe weather is in the area, and that First News 57 is watching its every move. We call it Operation Weather Watch, a people service of Texas Federal Savings. After recently accepting the prestigious National Headliners Award for Outstanding Radio Reporting, the staff of First News 57 now accepts with equal pride 2 awards from the United Press International Texas Association of Broadcasters. Best Spot News for Ray Lapierre's on-the-scene report of a man holding 2 children hostage. And Best Feature from John Allen. John's feature commemorating the birthday of the U.S. Navy was the only one to receive a perfect score of all the entries judged in the UPI contest this year. We also take great pride in accepting the Wendell Mays Award for Public Affairs for Jeannie Stokes' 2 5-part series, Women and Crime and Operation Cry Wolf. Jeannie Stokes, John Allen, Ray Lapierre. That's why we're the first news on your radio.
The news people in touch with people. With First News all day. The news people in touch with people. WFAA.
This is an endangered species. A voting booth. Endangered because it's being neglected by thousands of Texans. This year, 1 out of every 3 Texans will never see the inside of a voting booth because they won't register to vote. You can change that for yourself. You can choose the government you're going to live with for the next few years. Register to vote now so you can vote later before you become a vanishing American yourself. Call toll-free 1-800-252-9333 for information. A public service message from the Office of the Secretary of State of Texas.
It's about 19 minutes after 8 o'clock. Jeremy Rifkin, who wrote Who Should Play God, along with Ted Howard, is no longer with us. We were lucky, I understand, to get 45 minutes out of him. It's the first radio interview he's granted in months and months and months. And as you might imagine, is being swamped with requests. Right now, though, we have the lines open for your comments on the subject of cloning and genetic engineering, eugenics. 742-5700 in Dallas is the number, and in Fort Worth in the mid-cities, it's 263-4905. Hello.
Hello?
Yes.
Yes, I wanted to ask Mr. Rifkin a question, but I can't do that, so I'll turn it into a comment.
Okay.
The essence of evolution is the ability of the various species to reproduce themselves, not quite exactly, so that over a period of time they can adapt to the various environmental changes and so on, and in a slightly modified form continue their survival. The idea of cloning introduces the possibility that the ability to evolve could be lost. In other words, that evolution and all adaptation to environment would have to become managed by the mind of man, or the mind of clone, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And the existence of a sufficient variety of cell structures to create an evolutionary process again, or to comply with the evolutionary process, I'm trying to say, might be lost entirely in this area of genetic engineering, so that in the future the changes in environment that will come with future ages might wipe out the species, perhaps all species which have lost this ability to evolve. I think it's an interesting thing to think about. I don't know. I was hoping that Mr. Rifkin would touch on that area a little more closely. I'd like to hear some other comments.
Yeah, I wish you could have spent more time with us. Evolution wouldn't help at all in the event of any kind of catastrophic change, though, in the atmosphere of the world.
Well, it has kept the species that exist now alive throughout the centuries. You know, from the dawn of life. You know.
Yeah, but Homo sapiens has the species Homo sapiens evolved any since it came into existence?
Oh yes, it's evolved. Excuse me, in very many ways.
I know
just a trip to the museum to look at at early man compared with man today.
Yeah, early man was a different species, though, was he not?
No. The Homo sapien. For example, you were talking about King Tut.
Yeah.
Bear in mind, this is not my academic area by any means.
Yeah.
But you were talking about King Tut. Do you notice the shape of the head, and the body figures and so on in ancient Egypt as compared with the sizes and shapes and hair growths and all of the other things that you see today?
Yeah, and I know, for instance, that people are quite a bit taller now than they were in the past. But what I'm getting at is King Tut, if he were reincarnated today or were to suddenly get up and start walking around, would not have any more trouble than the rest of us have, I don't think, in dealing with the environment, breathing, for instance.
Possibly not. No, the changes of problem, but our ability to survive, for example, would King Tut have the ability to survive in say Chicago or Pittsburgh, where there's a highly industrialized atmosphere in which to live? For example, the common cold almost wiped out the Eskimos until they developed some resistance to it, which is not exactly an evolutionary process, but it's a process of that order.
Yeah, I wish you were here too to answer the questions, but it's a good comment, and maybe somebody else can.
Question is, there's a danger of losing the ability to evolve.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much for your call.
Thank you.
742-5700 in Dallas, 263-4905 in Fort Worth in the mid-cities. Hello.
Hello. Since I missed Jeremy, let me just propose a question that maybe some of the listeners might be able to answer.
Okay.
It's an engineering type question. I was talking to a medical biology student a few weeks ago, and I was asking him about cloning. And he says that our cells, a human cell, normally divides only about 70 times, and that's the reason we die, because our cells just quit dividing. And if we can ever learn how to control this division and continue it, we'll be able to live longer And if we can ever learn how to control it, we'll be able to stop cancer, because cancer is an uncontrolled division. And because our cells only divide 70 times, if we clone someone, it dies shortly. In fact, this is the reason that they only use frogs, is because normally the cells don't divide very much in a young frog. And I was just wondering if anyone had any information as to any engineering progress as to how that these cells could be caused to divide more.
Yeah, if cloning were possible, just to take a little thumbnail poll here, would you be for it or against it?
I think it would. I think it would be good.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much for your call. I guess really the question should be, once we establish if you're for it or against it, who should decide? You know, right now it's the people who have money to hire scientists to set up facilities to clone an individual, if we're to believe the story of David Rorvik, who wrote this book In His Own Image and who claims that a clone does exist today and is 14 months old. 742-5700, we have some lines available there. Right now, let's go to the Fort Worth line at 263-4905. Hello.
Hey.
Hey.
Are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, just a question. Okay, now if this really works, then this old boy has solved all the beef problems for the whole world. The beef, you know, cattle, sheep, goats, and everything. If he's that smart, then we don't have any more trouble. Because all they do, you know, you can take one bull and a cow, and oh boy, you're in clover from then on.
Oh, that's true. Better than that, if you really let your imagination go on the idea of cloning and genetic engineering.
Right.
It says here, General Electric has actually experimented with changing the human digestive tract so that people could eat and digest hay like cows. Then you wouldn't need cows, something else.
How about that?
Dr. Kimball Atwood, a biologist at the University of Illinois, says there's no reason why animals and plants couldn't be genetically crossed so that skin, like leaves, would perform photosynthesis. Then we wouldn't need any beef, you see.
Well, then we should start doing that, shouldn't we?
Well, I don't know. See, you open up a Pandora's box is what Jeremy Rifkin, I think, is saying.
Well, all right, and I just knew this, that the shortage of beef and food and meat in all of the world, if this will work, we don't have to have but one or two bulls, you know, one and a few cows and then man and the sheep and everything. We can just go, we don't have to worry about it anymore, do we?
Yeah. I think we still have to worry, but just about different things. Thank you for your call, though.
Okay.
742-5700 in Dallas, 263-4905 in Fort Worth and the Mid-Cities. Hello.
Hello there. I want to ask you just make one comment.
Okay.
This man says he had a 14-month-old clone.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't they show it to us? Well, we got his word for it.
That's true. All we have is his word, and that's all he wants to give us right now.
That's all he's got to give.
He doesn't want to... this fellow who has a code name of Max, who is the person who donated the cell from which the clone was developed, says he doesn't want his, quote...
If it was true, he wouldn't mind showing us.
No. What he says is he doesn't want his, quote, son, unquote, made into a freak, which you can understand would happen if it actually existed.
I can understand he's lying, that's all.
Thank you very much for your call.
Thank you.
742-5700 in Dallas, 263-4905 in Fort Worth and the Mid-Cities. We've been talking about cloning this hour with Jeremy Rifkin, who wrote Who Should Play God. Next hour, beginning at 8:35, we'll be talking about the Manson family with Bob Slosser, who, along with Susan Atkins, who is one of the Manson family members who's currently in jail serving time, was originally on death row until the death penalty was outlawed in California, wrote Child of Satan, Child of God. So if you have questions about things of that nature, keep them in mind and jot them down for future reference. I'm Tim Jernigan, and this is WFAA News Talk 57. We'll be getting into the next portion of our program right after a break for news from the Mutual Broadcasting System and from Don Norman of the local news team. Later on in the program, starting at 9:35, we'll be opening up the lines, so anything that doesn't fit into any of the two topics we've discussed so far, you can bring up then. Back after news.
I'm chewing gum again. Big deal? It is to me. I had to give up gum because it stuck to my dental work. But with Freedent gum from Wrigley's, I can enjoy chewing gum again. It doesn't stick. Fact is, until I found Freedent, I'd forgotten how fresh and clean my mouth and breath could feel anytime. Freedent in peppermint and spearmint. You'll like it.
Feel free to chew Freedent.
It won't stick to most dental work.
Freedent gum.
If you suffer with athlete's foot, listen to what students at the University of New Mexico helped us prove in a major medical study. Nothing is more effective than Desinex. They tested #1 Desinex against the other 2 leading remedies. Here they talk candidly about the results of that test.
That was about the best stuff I've ever used. Just started to clear up real fast. Whatever it was, it worked.
What did these clinical tests prove? Nothing short of a prescription is better than Desinex. So if you still suffer with athlete's foot, don't blame Desinex, a product of Penwalt Corporation.
We play What's My Line, and nutritionist Janet Mahalko joins us on the Tuesday Kevin McCarthy Show here on WFAA, Dallas, Fort Worth.
At least 13 young people drowned in Canada when a sudden storm overturned their canoes on a lake in northern Quebec. The victims were all from a school in the Toronto area. At least 15 other canoeists survived. Russia is claiming to have caught a lady spy under a Moscow bridge, and that the modern-day Matty Harry was an American diplomat assigned to the American embassy in Moscow. With more on the story, here's correspondent Charles Bremner reporting from Moscow.
Newspaper said that although she took elaborate precautions to lose anyone who might have been following her, she was arrested at the bridge. It said she was carrying miniature cameras, money, instructions, and 2 vials of poison, all to be passed on to an unnamed spy. According to the Soviet account, similar poison had already been used by the spy, presumably a Russian, to kill an innocent Soviet citizen who got in his way.
The lady diplomat, or spy, reportedly was expelled from Russia. The strongest earthquake to hit Japan in 15 years has killed almost 24 people, injured more than 300. This is news from Mutual Radio. I'm Ivan Scott.
I can't believe they can do it for $19.99.
Installed? The aluminized Sears muzzler is only $19.99 installed. And listen to the muzzler promise.
Sears promises that the muzzler will last as long as you own your American-made car.
Or return it for refund or replacement free.
And if Sears installed it, they'll install the new one free.
Well, you can't beat that.
I think it's fantastic.
It's a great promise.
The muzzler, only $19.99 installed. Sizes to fit most American-made cars. Price may vary in Alaska and Hawaii. At most Sears Tire and Auto Centers.
Sears National Automotive Sale. It's a great time to save on Sears Dynaglass belted 28 tires. Right now they're on sale at 40% off spring 1978 general catalog prices, plus federal excise tax. They have 2 fiberglass belts to give you good traction and long mileage. And right now you save 40%. Dynaglass belted 28 tires. Sale ends July 1st at most Sears Tire and Auto Centers. Prices and dates may vary in Alaska and Hawaii.
Stop at Sears.
At 8:32, this is Don Norman. First News 57. An evacuation is underway near Willis in southeast Texas following the derailment of a freight train. The Montgomery County Sheriff's Department told WFAA News the evacuation is being made from a 1-mile radius of the derailment because 2 of the cars were tankers containing vinyl chloride, a highly flammable liquid which can produce irritating vapors if it burns. The Sheriff's Department spokesman says there have been no injuries reported, nor has any fire been reported. The Dallas County Budget Director has been instructed to work up a no-tax increase budget. WFAA's Andrea Peters has details.
The Dallas County Commissioners have advised the County Budget Director to come up with a no-tax increase budget in July. Commissioner Jim Jackson says taxpayers in California have already put a halt to increased government spending, and he's ready to ensure those measures won't need to take place in Dallas County.
I have told the budget officer previous to today that that I personally would like a no-tax increase budget. Now, he can't do that because this court's going to have to make some policy decisions and set some priorities that would allow him to do that. He can't make the policy decisions to cut funds in some areas. He's going to have to work with us to do that. But I told him prior to today that if he didn't present a no-tax increase budget, that I'd like for him to tell me in advance because I'll present my own.
Commissioners Jackson and Roy Orr both agree that they will be actively working to curb further increases in county spending. Andrea Peters, First News 57.
The Moody Park Three refused to enter pleas at their arraignment in Houston today. They're charged with felony riot for the May 8th disturbance near Moody Park on the northeast side of Houston. Nora Martinez has details.
Travis Morales, Mara Youngdahl, and Thomas Hershey, also known as the Moody Park Three, today refused to enter pleas at their arraignment on charges of felony riot. Morales told the court he did not recognize their authority to try the three on anything. Visiting Judge William Brown entered not guilty pleas in their behalf. Defense attorney Nancy Formachet objected to a speedy trial motion by Assistant District Attorney Vic Driscoll. Driscoll contended the Moody Park Three might otherwise stay free on bond indefinitely, but the judge set no trial date, saying he would leave that matter to Judge Joe Keegan. I'm Nora Martinez in Houston.
Defense attorneys argued the indictments are illegal because they were returned by an unrepresentative county grand jury. A 27-year-old Argyle, Texas man, John William McCrory, has been arrested and charged with the murder of 17-year-old Gina Walker. The Louisville High School student disappeared on her way to meet her boyfriend for graduation festivities June 2nd. Her body was found the next day in a field near Louisville. Dallas-Fort Worth weather clearing and cooler tonight with a low in the upper 60s. Mostly fair tomorrow and Wednesday. A bit cooler tomorrow, then warmer again Wednesday. Tomorrow's high, the low 90s. The low tomorrow night, the upper 60s, and the high Wednesday in the mid-90s. Wind light northeasterly. Right now, fair skies and 90 degrees in the Metroplex. This is Don Norman, First News 57, and now again, Tim Jernigan.
Thank you, Don. No rain in the forecast at all.
Not a bit.
Despite the clouds outside.
That's right.
Shoot.
There are a few out there.
Yeah.
Certainly are.
It started out hot today. At 9 a.m. this morning, it was a scorcher, and it got worse.
I guess it's that season.
Yeah, when was the first day of summer, do you know?
It's coming up. It's usually around the 20th or 21st, along in there of June. So summer hadn't even officially started yet.
Oh, gosh. Well, we don't have our guest who is scheduled to be here by way of the phone line. That's a chance you always take when you try to line somebody up by phone, that he won't be there. And we've got some added complications with this particular guest. So we'll put this information in hold, and if we get him, we can go to it. You can still continue to think about things such as religious conversions. Specifically, Bob Slosser, who was scheduled to be our guest, wrote about Susan Atkins, who is a member of the Manson family, who participated in the Sharon Tate murders, although she maintained she didn't actually deliver any fatal blows. She was in jail, though, on death row until they knocked down the death penalty. Other things, that kind of topic brings up are figures like Larry Flint and Charles Colson and Eldridge Cleaver, criminals or public figures who have claimed to have experienced conversions. Okay? That's some of the stuff we'll be talking about with Bob Slosser if we can get him. But like I say, he's not here yet. Did you hear that the American Nazi Party has now been given permission to march in Skokie, Illinois? Skokie, Illinois is a predominantly Jewish suburb of Chicago where a lot of former concentration camp tenants live now. It's not going to be the calmest of situations, I don't think. We've got an open line now, though. And if that or anything else you've heard or seen in the news lately has sparked a comment, give us a call. 742-5700 in Dallas, 263-4905 in Fort Worth and the mid-cities. Something else I saw on Walter Cronkite. There is an anti-nuclear protest in New York today, and police are handling riot or potential riot situations differently. Demonstrations they're handling differently now, whereas before they came out in helmets with billy clubs. They were now stating the rights of each of these people. They had a film of protesters crossing a line, and the policeman stating the rights, saying if you go past this line, you're liable to be arrested. They were arrested, And instead of dragging them into the paddy wagons, as you might have seen in the news back in the 1960s when a lot of that was going on, they brought out stretchers and picked these limp bodies up of these protesters who refused to cooperate, put them on the stretchers, and pitched them into the paddy wagon in that way. I understand we do have our guest on the line now, and we'll be getting to him right after we take a commercial break.
Today we're talking to Mr. Breakfast.
Ralph Breakfast here. Did you know that a good breakfast supplies a quarter of the day's necessary nutrients?
Well, I know that you need the 4 food groups to build healthy bodies.
Right. Milk, meat, vegetables, and fruits, and breads and cereals.
I've got any tips for a good quickie breakfast?
Sure do. Blend up a breakfast drink. Milk, orange juice, crunchy cereal, peanut butter. Delicious. Now there's a good breakfast for the person on the run.
How important is the morning paper to a good breakfast?
No nutritional value.
Have a good breakfast. An important reminder from the Dairy Council.